this came out on CNET the other like a couple weeks ago. I just thought it was cool and figured, we're in the middle of a climate crisis where like trucks are getting too hot and killing people that drive inside of them. So any silver lining, any good thing that is currently being worked on to end that crisis or at least mitigate that crisis, I think is worth checking out. And this looks cool. Oh, the wave power tech competing with fossil fuels, essentially a way to get energy out of ocean waves and currents, and that seems really cool. I know that people have been working on that for a long, long time now. So the fact that we're getting closer to making it happen, really cool.
This long yellow raft harnesses the power of the ocean to compete with fossil fuels. Meet the Waveline Magnet, made by Seawave Energy Limited, or SWEL for short. We spoke to the company's co-CEO to learn about how it works, the different needs it could serve, and what's next for this wave power tech. Let's dive in.
We're not trying to compete with the other people in wave energy. We're not trying to compete either with wind and solar, which is already commercially mature. We're trying to compete with fossil fuels.
Fossil fuels accounted for 82% of the world's energy supply in 2022, so the folks at SWEL are really aiming big. They've been developing their wave energy converter for over 10 years, a journey which has led them to this unique design and involved collaboration across generations, starting with the man seen here riding on the back of his invention.
That's my dad, actually, so that's the inventor. We are not a company that sits in an office and looks at numbers and produces reports and publications and says this is what our technology does. We sit on the system, we play with it, we understand it, we feel it. Just like when you're driving a car, you turn the wheel and you feel how the wheel pushes back. You feel how things react to your inputs.
Their years of testing in both wave pools
Science is a
and the
bitch
open
sometimes.
ocean have led them to the Waveline Magnet design, which has 4 main components.
The first component, and well, you could say the most important, is the spine that runs down the center of the entire system. That is basically the component which holds everything together. It gives us a reference point to work
that's so
around.
Cool.
Number
What?
2 is the platforms which connect to the surface, to the waveline, what we usually call it. The third one are levers. So all they do is just connect the platforms to the spine. And then the final component is the power takeoff, which is the pumps.
The pumps suck up seawater and pressurize it. By using the seawater itself, the Waveline Magnet avoids any risk of ocean contamination in the event of a leak, which you might get with other materials such as oil.
What?
The pressurized seawater is how the Waveline Magnet harnesses what Alex called the raw power of the wave, which can then be used for several different purposes.
You can use this flow of seawater to create electricity, if you like, of course. And you can use that power to desalinate water on board. Another application is hydrogen, which is sort of a byproduct of the electricity, but then it can also store the hydrogen within its body.
The fact that the Waveline Magnet attaches to the ocean's surface and moves with it minimizes the wear and tear and the need for maintenance. SWEL also says its wave energy converter can be made from recyclable materials and is open to working with sustainability advocates and environmental regulators to ensure the final design protects ocean ecosystems.
That's so cool.
Depending on how the Waveline Magnet is configured, it could someday end up as a hydrogen fuel power station for passing boats, an energy lifeline to coastal communities, or a key source of fresh water via desalination. The amount of wave power one of these is able to harness depends on how large it is and the size of waves in the operating area. On the larger end, these Waveline Magnets can be about 24 meters wide and 600 meters long. Alex says that a case study prepared for one of these larger units operating off the coast of Scotland, where waves were an average of 3 meters tall, estimated 140 gigawatt hours of energy harnessed annually.
We're talking power station levels of production from a single system.
The Waveline Magnet recently completed 2 rounds of testing and only has 1 more planned before it takes the next step towards commercialization.
It's basically the last system that we're going to test before commercialization of our first, commercially available product. This pilot will most likely be here in Cyprus. It's just going to be down there in the sea.
Alex says
like 140 gigawatts is a fuck ton. Like an actual fuck. This video came out 3 weeks ago. Boiled Peanuts, thank you so much for the raid. Everyone, go support Boiled Peanuts. Shout out Boiled Peanuts TV. There you go. Got a shout out. I'm gonna hit the follow button too. You're a good bean. Yeah, chat. So for the record, in California, the amount of gigawatt hours to power California is around 277,764. So, like, obviously, that's a lot. But also, if you built a bunch of these, like, you could easily, like, cut down on how much of that is coming from fossil fuels quite a bit. So it used the floats to move generators. Kind of. It appears that it uses the floats to move both a... I mean, it seems like it's pumping water using the waves, right? And that the pumping of the water then turns a generator. And that in turn is able to generate power. Was it something about magnets and pressurizing water? Yeah, so it pressurizes the water and is then able to, project it out or use it to turn, like, generators and stuff. Yeah, honestly, like, Win B, like, imagine something like that, something like this, right? But instead of just having these panels, it's solar panels, you know? I feel like there's a way you could do that and, like, have it be, like, this solar power generating station that also is getting power from the waves. And maybe you could also even incorporate, like, wind turbines, like, especially the vertical ones, across the spine here in the middle. I feel like there's a way you could, like, combine several different methods of power generation here in a way that would be really, really cool and interesting. I wonder how it would do with a river. I don't think it would do well with a river, but we already have ways we can harness the power of rivers with, like, wheels and such. Incorporating it into algae farms would be neat because then we could add power generation to existing agricultural demand. Yeah, that would be cool too. I feel like there's a lot of potential in this, and I know we've gone over this kind of stuff on the stream before. We went over like deep sea underwater, like tidal power generators that use essentially like underwater aircraft drones to like circle using the currents and such to generate power. But this seems much farther along, and this seems really cool.
The Waveline Magnet recently completed 2 rounds of testing and only has 1 more planned before it takes the next step towards commercialization.
It's basically the last system that we're going to test before commercialization of our first, commercially
Seed deteriorates the glass
product.
quickly? Well, I mean, I figure at some point there's going to be a breakthrough where you're able to use solar power, maybe not with glass, but with some other material.
Pilot will most likely be here in Cyprus. It's just going to be down there in the sea.
Alex says that the first commercial product will likely be a smaller unit focused on desalination.
Our first commercially
very
available
much
system
needed,
will
by the way.
desalinate, depending on wave climate, between 10 to 50 tons of water per hour at a cost which is about a third of the conventional methods.
Swell is also in the process of developing strategic partnerships to help bring its products to market. What do you think of the Waveline Magnet? Let us
That seems cool as hell. Storing power is our biggest hurdle, I think. Yeah, there are ways we can store power, but, like, we need better and more effective ways of doing it. I don't know how they use the currents to make power. I've only ever seen them make jams and juice. Ah, McWiggin, you card you. How you doing? Chris Huggy, hello! Yeah, and it wouldn't be bad. Won't have a bad accident and damage the ocean. Right, yeah. Iron air batteries are exciting. just real quick. Yeah, they're currently working with sodium ion batteries, and sodium ion batteries, I believe, have the scalability that might allow them to be used for grid scale storage. Yeah, last year in December, there was a significant breakthrough regarding sea salt battery. Um, and these sea salt batteries have 4 times the capacity of lithium. Supposedly. So it really there are a bunch of people working on really cutting edge battery tech right now, which is really exciting. How am I? I'm stressed because I missed so many days of streaming this month. So yeah, trying to make up for lost time. Saw this about saltwater batteries. If this
This
is
video is brought.
it's undecided with Matt Farrell. We've watched it already. I guarantee it. But thank you for throwing it my way. Yes. Hello. Apparently, geothermal plants in 2 cities will cause air pollution and pollute groundwater reservoirs for some reason. Well, yeah, it depends. It depends on. I mean, here's the unfortunate reality, folks. Right? Any form of power generation is going to have pros and cons, right? And part of the problem is that, we need to choose which cons we can handle and which cons we can't. Right now, we can't handle the cons of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. You know, so we have to do anything and everything we can to mitigate that. And there's still gonna be like environmental fallout of like producing solar panels and disposing of them once they are at the end of their usefulness, right? There are gonna be environmental problems with regards to installing wind turbines, and it's just unfortunately like or just the production of the parts for these things. There's going to be a lot of trade-offs in any kind of energy generation, so we just need to decide which ones are worth it. And right now, I think basically every trade-off for every method of generating power is pretty worth it compared to the planet dying. So, yeah. Given the con for nuclear is a fuck ton of waste we put in glass and store underground, I'd say this one sounds a lot better. I would agree. However, I think honestly, like, we have the ability to deal with a lot of that right now. One of the problems is that in the United States in particular, we don't recycle nuclear fuel, and we just immediately put it in the barrels and send it for disposal, right? And part of the problem with that is if we reused our nuclear fuel, we can effectively make it less radioactive over time, which shortening the half-life from like millions of years to like 100 or so. It's actually insane how we don't do that in the United States. I think because there was some worry about it being able to be like stolen and weaponized, but I think that worry is long gone. You can't reuse nuclear fuel almost indefinitely? Not indefinitely, but like the nuclear waste we dispose of right now, like still has like 98% of its capacity to generate energy like within it. So like we could just keep reusing it for a long while. And if we had like differently sized nuclear plants, I think that would enable us to be able to reuse more nuclear waste, because once it became like a certain level of effectiveness, we could move it from a large scale reactor to a smaller one.